And Lisa, I know you've experienced a lot of cases like this. And when you look at that clip and look at that video, she was hunched over. She looked like a lady that didn't want to be there and was in a hurry. What did you think of that body language?
Yeah, so that's very closed body language. It's a self-preservation and protection type of stance where they kind of fold in and they get very small, and they're not comfortable, obviously. And what was just said by your other guest, Aaron, I believe, is that when you start to close in, the investigator starts to close in and put the heat on and put the pressure on. That's when you start to really watch the body language to see what happens. Because a lot of times they're cool, they put their eyes down a little bit, and they're just trying to put themselves on the caution side to find out what do the police actually know during their questioning. What do they know already, and what are they trying to find out from me?
So a lot to break down in this part of the interrogation here. Lisa, when you hear about this third party being involved, do you think that's actually the case here, considering life insurance money was involved in the possible motive here? I mean, she also originally said the victim and Earl Howard got into a fight, and that's what happened. But how do you decode multiple versions of these events?
Well, again, she's trying to protect herself. She's trying to protect her lover. So initially, is the story that started out was, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. But think about it. She's having an affair. Clearly, she's planning to leave her husband. What would be the impetus for the two of them to show up at that house on the 29th and to have a confrontation, knowing full well as her story started to change that Chad didn't want her to leave? Why would she bring that animosity into that home and have Earl just show up there and not expect some type of conflict? So she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, because the planning of this was horrendous, just horrendous, as far as the life insurance part, the renter's insurance policy, 5 days before the shooting. Didn't make sense, because the house ended up catching fire. That was an actual arson. So it didn't make sense, as far as, especially the fact that there was a life insurance policy worth $600,000 in which she was the beneficiary that was taken out 2 years ago. That would have seemed like that would have been enough. But it put the nail in the coffin, I think, with the renter's insurance.
Very interesting how he was just excused as we learned more details about the fire damage. Lisa, what are we learning here that's significant to this case?
Two things. One thing is that Nikki told us that Earl did knock over the propane tank so that it would look like, it's an accident, and that's how the fire was started. So we did have that evidence. Also, we learned that in the basement, where they actually had the HVAC furnace system, that fire was a separate fire. So that was also an arson. And they were able to conclude through the arson investigator that it didn't have anything to do with faulty pipes, any arcing in any of the wires, that was an intentional fire. But that fire in the basement was not something that went through the house all the way up into the bedroom. So there were two sources for the arsons.